shows, we don't tend to start from a theme or really have any fixed starting points. We'll just start from things that interest us in one way or another, be it a costume or a piece of music or a mood, or I mean, it can be sort of anything really. I always think this is interesting, that like when you've improvised some material and you have a bunch of material in a way on the table and you're trying to structure it or organize it, and quite often what you end up doing is applying a kind of thinking that you have from before to that material. And then quite often we start to say, you know what, maybe we're asking the wrong questions of what this is. And that I think is the hardest thing, is to ask the right questions of the material that you've made so that you follow where it wants to take you, rather than where you want to push it. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, some people think we're quite strange like that, because we often talk about what the show wants to do rather than what we want to do with the show. But it's a bit like when you get up on your feet and you make something, and you know, for days and days you don't make anything very interesting, and then you know, one day you make like 10 minutes and you go, don't know what that is. Like, why is that interesting? And then you spend a week just doing that again and again, thinking, oh well, maybe like having done that, you'll roll off the end of it into something else. You never get any further, and you sort of go, don't know what it is. It's still interesting, and you're trying to, I suppose, push things in a certain direction. And the sort of happiest bits of creation, I think, are when you don't feel like you're pushing it, like it goes somewhere, and then you, in a way, you have to follow what that is. I mean, I think the other thing is that I think we tend to be very hard on material. We'll make something and then we quite like something, and then we'll be like, really, well, actually, if you were going to be mean about this, you would say that it was only this, this, and this. And actually, being very harsh to what you've created is also sort of important. And we used to often talk about this process of, like, in a way, playing and making things, and then in a way afterwards talking, and it's almost like you put a grid down on it, and you sort of say, okay, really, what is this? And then you have to take that off again in order to just sort of mess about and make some more. But so you're moving between two things all the time. One is of playing, and the other is of sort of really analysing what it is that you're doing, and trying to intellectually project where it might go. And I think sometimes when you get stuck is when you get too much stuck in the talking, actually, and then you find it impossible for days to get up and try anything, because actually anybody can argue why it won't work. Do you know what I mean? It's like people can prove that just won't work, and then other people are in the room saying, just, can we just try it? You know, I don't care if it, you know, and then we say, well, look, let's just try it. It'll take us 10 minutes, and then we don't have to talk about it anymore. You know. Yeah. So that's the trying things is. Yeah, that's important. But I find it very difficult to think about how you change the process. I mean, that's what we're. I mean, that's what we're quite interested in at the moment. I think, in a way, exposure to other people's processes is maybe interesting for us. Though the process is such a private thing. I mean, it's like I don't really. I don't think I really believe in like a methodology, or people who have a methodology. I'm always rather suspicious of it in a way. We're not very precious about our ideas, so we're very easy to sort of say, okay, well, if it doesn't work, if we try something and it doesn't work, then like let's leave it. And I suppose in a process that's like working together for so long, quite often you come back to things. So something that was maybe in a rehearsal process for one show, an idea that never made it into the show, suddenly comes back like 3 years later or 4 years later, when you say, oh, you know that thing that we did with the gorilla, that we never got into this, oh, that might be interesting. You know, have we got that in the cupboard? Let's get that out. And so in a way, you're sort of following a lot of different strands, and perhaps in that sense it's sort of easier having worked together for a long time, and at the beginning deciding that we were going to work together for a long time, because it meant that the first show was not necessarily the most important one, which I think for young companies very often it's like the first show that you want to put everything into it. And I think for us it was like, okay, well, this is the first thing we make, and then we'll make this, and then we'll see what happens when we make that. And you know, after 5 years you have this sense of, well, this show is the thing that we make next, and inevitably everything is flawed in some way, and you can look at it and go, oh, nice, I don't know, that doesn't really work about it, but at a certain point you have to stop changing things and then make the next thing. So I think that was a lesson that we learned quite early on, and I think that probably helped us. Having your own rehearsal space, we're not in that position at the moment, but for years that was very important to us, was that we had like a room that was permanently ours, that we could go into 24 hours a day. And I think that was hugely important, that in a way then you could try anything whenever it came to you, and that was, I think that was fairly useful. We sort of joke about this a lot, having a cupboard next to your rehearsal room that is full of stuff that you've sort of used in other shows or things you've collected, so that when you're stuck doing something you can go in the cupboard and get something. Like there's stupid things, but that's also I think important. Sharing the same kind of taste is pretty essential. Not necessarily even in theatre. I mean, I think we all came together as a group because we like the same music, we like the same films more than we like theatre. In fact, when we started, we didn't really like theatre at all. And I sort of imagined that if it had been easier to get hold of cameras in those days, we would all have become filmmakers rather than theatre makers. So yeah, sharing things with those people, I think, is very important. And I mean, it's the similarity and the difference that's important. And I suppose, I don't think about the people very much because we've worked in a group for so long. So it's like making something with your family. I take that for granted. It's like, oh yes, well, of course the people. But I think when you work with other people, like when we bring other people in for projects, we tend to not do that on a one-off basis, but like we'll work with some people in a kind of collaborative way over a number of years. And the fact that they're from different backgrounds is useful. And also, I suppose, like when you're in a group of people, you tend to assume certain roles and positions within that group. And when you change the number of people, add more people, then of course the dynamics change. And then everything has to sort of readjust and realign. I think that's hugely important.